Humans became cheaper than machines. For 2 years, executives were told the same story. Salaries were dead weight, and AI workers would do the job for pennies. Then the companies closest to the technology ran into the bill. Microsoft began cutting off its own engineers from Claude Code, one of the strongest coding tools available. Uber spent its entire 2026 AI coding budget in just 4 months. Because people used them too much, the dream was simple. Replace expensive workers with cheap digital agents. The reality was uglier. Every prompt, retry, test, and failed fix had a price. The machine kept thinking, and the meter kept running. For the first time, the human was not the luxury option. The human was the discount option, and big tech had proof. This was not an anti-AI revolt. Microsoft still wanted the upside. Uber still wanted automation. NVIDIA still wanted to sell the chips. The problem was arithmetic. AI coding tools were not just helping workers. They were becoming a new operating expense, one that grew faster than teams could control. And the strange part was this. These were not outsiders watching the boom from a distance. They were the firms building it, buying it, and selling it. If anyone should know how to make the numbers work, it was them. Yet inside their own engineering teams, the story began to change. AI was useful. AI was powerful. AI was also shockingly expensive at scale. Then the budget started breaking. In late 2025, Microsoft opened access to Claude Code for internal teams. Engineers, designers, and managers were encouraged to hand more work to the system. Claude Code was not a toy. It could read code, suggest changes, and help with real software tasks. Adoption spread quickly. That was the success story. Then it became the problem. By May 2026, Microsoft began pulling those licenses back. The Verge reported that Microsoft canceled most direct Claude Code access and pushed engineers toward GitHub Copilot CLI, its cheaper internal alternative. By June 30th, 2026, the cuts hit hardest around Windows and Microsoft 365, two of Microsoft's most important product groups. The official explanation sounded harmless. Usage had grown too fast, and costs had risen too sharply. But that explanation exposed the real issue. The tool was valuable enough that engineers wanted it constantly, and expensive enough that Microsoft restricted it. That was the trap. Microsoft was not abandoning Anthropic, the company behind Claude. In November 2025, Microsoft agreed to invest up to $5 billion in Anthropic. Anthropic agreed to spend $30 billion on Microsoft's Azure cloud. That deal stayed alive. So Microsoft still believed in the technology. It still wanted to profit from AI demand. It simply did not want its own engineers generating the bill without limits. The product was worth selling. It was harder to justify using everywhere. Then Uber hit the wall even faster. In April 2026, Uber's chief technology officer, Praveen Napali-Naga, admitted the company had already used its full 2026 budget for AI coding tools. 1 year of spending vanished in 4 months. The rollout had reached about 5,000 engineers in late 2025. In February 2026, roughly 32% of engineers were using Claude Code. By March, that figure had exploded to 84%. Uber had even created leaderboards that ranked teams by AI usage. Adoption became competition. A typical engineer was spending $150 to $250 per month on AI coding. Heavy users reached $500 to $2,000 each. Naga himself burned through $1,200 in tokens during a single 2-hour demo. Uber's CEO said AI agents now write about 10% of the company's code. That sounds impressive, until the savings disappear. Andrew McDonald, Uber's chief operating officer, called the numbers head exploding. For all that spending, he could not point to a clear customer benefit. The machine worked, but the math did not. Across tech, the same mistakes spread under different names. In 2025 and 2026, companies began treating AI usage like a scoreboard. At Amazon, workers were pushed to token max, slang for using as many tokens as possible. More tokens meant more AI activity, It also meant a larger invoice. That was not careful automation. It was consumption dressed up as innovation. At Meta, an employee built a leaderboard called Claudenomics. Workers were ranked by how much they spent on AI. The person generating the biggest bill looked like a pioneer, not a cost center. Meta later removed the board after the danger became obvious. The incentive was broken. To one engineer, an extra prompt felt tiny. A fraction of a cent does not feel like a budget decision. But thousands of workers, millions of tasks, and constant experimentation create a different number. The cost stops looking invisible once finance receives the total. This was the tragedy of the commons in software form. Everyone gained from using more. No individual felt responsible for the total burn. Then the shared budget collapsed. But chatbots were only the beginning. A normal prompt is simple. A person asks, the model responds, and the meter clicks once. An AI agent behaves differently. It receives a goal and starts working through steps. It reads files. It writes a plan. It edits code. It runs tests. If something breaks, it tries again. Every step costs money. A typical agent task can consume 5 to 30 times more tokens than a simple chat exchange. In extreme cases, reports say usage can spike past 1,000 times. That is where the cheap worker story starts falling apart. The most expensive work is often the failed work. SWE Bench, a major industry benchmark, uses real software bugs that human engineers once fixed manually. The best agents currently solve less than 50% of that test. That failure rate matters. An agent may find a bug, propose a fix, run tests, and fail. Then it tries a new approach, then another. A difficult bug can trigger 5 to 10 complete attempts before the agent gives up or a human steps in. Each attempt costs almost like the first. Imagine hiring a repair worker who charges every time he walks to the truck, drops a tool, changes his mind, and still leaves the leak unfixed. At small scale, it is annoying. At corporate scale, it becomes a budget weapon, and making tokens cheaper does not solve the whole problem. The cost of AI is not floating in the air. It sits inside chips, data centers, electricity, cooling systems, and cloud contracts. A chat prompt may feel light. An agentic workflow is closer to lighting a stadium so one person can search for a lost coin. Even NVIDIA has acknowledged the pressure. Brian Catanzaro, NVIDIA's vice president of applied deep learning, told Axios that compute costs for his team are far beyond employee costs. NVIDIA powers much of the AI boom, so it has every reason to defend the economics. Yet even there, the machines can cost more than the people. That flips the replacement argument. Microsoft is trying to attack the problem with its own hardware. Its Maya 200 chip was built to reduce the cost of running AI models. On Microsoft's April 2026 earnings call, CEO Satya Nadella said Maya 200 delivers more than 30% better tokens per dollar than older chips in Microsoft's data centers. The chip is already running in Arizona and Iowa. But there is a catch. Cheaper tokens encourage heavier use. Agents consume more steps, more retries, and more reasoning cycles. The hardware improves, but the workload expands. The savings get swallowed before they reach profits. Gartner predicted that by 2030, running a top model could cost about 90% less than in 2025. That sounds like salvation. Yet Gartner still warned that enterprise AI may not become cheaper overall. Because agent workloads can grow faster than token prices fall. The cheap token and the powerful system are not the same product. Goldman Sachs found that agentic AI could drive global token usage up 24-fold by 2030. That would mean roughly 120 quadrillion tokens every month. Big tech is building massive data centers to meet that future demand. But that same demand threatens the margins of the products they are trying to sell. The warning signs were visible early. In 2023, Microsoft sold GitHub Copilot for $10 per month. The Wall Street Journal found Microsoft was losing more than $20 per user each month. The heaviest users cost as much as $80 monthly, $10 in, $80 out. That is not a business model. It is a subsidy with a deadline. The bigger the adoption, the bigger the loss, unless pricing or efficiency changes dramatically. Goldman's Jim Covello has been one of the loudest skeptics. He argued the industry faces too much spend, too little benefit. Big tech is on track to spend around $1 trillion building AI infrastructure. The question remains brutally simple. What expensive problem gets solved? The issue is not that AI has no value. It clearly does. The issue is whether the value consistently exceeds the cost when deployed across entire workforces. So far, the answer is not obvious. That is the efficiency paradox. As AI becomes more capable, it often does not get cheaper in a straight line. More autonomy means more planning, more checking, more tool use, and more retries. Human workers behave differently. A more skilled employee can often produce more at roughly the same infrastructure cost. AI and humans sit on different cost curves. A junior employee may double output without doubling salary. An agent may double activity while multiplying token spend. At 2026 prices, a fully autonomous digital worker is not a universal replacement. It is a premium tool for narrow, high-value tasks. That is a very different future. The phrase human in the loop once sounded soft. Now it sounds like financial control. Companies need people who can watch agents, judge outputs, stop runaway loops, and decide when the machine is wasting money. That makes verification one of the most important jobs in the AI era. Even Jensen Huang, NVIDIA's CEO, describes a future where 100 AI agents work alongside every employee. Alongside is the key word. Remove the human, and the company may not know whether the agents created value until the invoice arrives. The retreat is already visible elsewhere. Duolingo leaned into the AI replaces workers message, then softened its stance. Its CEO admitted the technology would not take over work the way people do. The company also scrapped a rule linking job reviews to AI usage after employees argued it rewarded activity over results. That is the lesson hiding inside the hype. AI adoption is not the same as AI productivity. Token burn is not the same as progress, and replacing workers is not the same as reducing costs. The Great Replacement did not slow down because executives became sentimental. It collided with spreadsheets. Humans survived because they are flexible, cheap, and efficient in ways machines still are not. AI will remain powerful. It will write code, answer questions, test ideas, and reshape entire companies. But the worker it was supposed to replace may be the one keeping it affordable. The future may not belong to humans instead of machines. It may belong to the companies that know exactly when to stop the machine. Because the most dangerous AI worker is not the one that fails. It is the one that keeps working after the budget is gone.